Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mellissa Thomas with Florida National News, coming to you with your Thursday edition of the FNN Politics and Power series. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as you saw from the flyer, the overlay, today we will be interviewing Anjali Vaya, who is a business owner in the Winter Park area, and she has several offices across the Orlando area. But she is currently running for Orange County Commissioner District 5, which is a three-person race so far. The incumbent plus herself and one other candidate. So very quickly, a brief overview of Anjali in case you don't know much about her. She is actually very involved in the community. She is, first of all, as we met her through Florida National News, we met her through the Indian American Chamber of Commerce. She has a very large presence there. She's on the board there. And also, she is involved in other business ventures throughout the community. She's connected to other companies throughout the community. And just a little bit about her background, just to let you guys know, she actually came to the US from Central Africa, Zambia, with only a suitcase and a college scholarship. She says on her website, all my dreams became my reality through hard work and perseverance. And we'll come back to that a little bit later in the interview, guys. We want to be sure to talk about that. But she said over the last 23 years, she has actually worked various jobs, from washing dishes to pay her bills for college, to working as a childcare provider to make ends meet, or as a nurse aide in senior living facilities. So that is a brief overview. We're going to let the wonderful Anjali Vaya kind of tell her own story, of course. So Anjali, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on this show. We've met so many times over the years, as you mentioned, in being in community projects together. I did file for the Orange County District 5 Commission seat in August of last year. I'm a wife, a mom, and a business owner, a job creator, and a first-time candidate. Right. You mentioned I did grow up in a third world country, which was very underdeveloped, and it had a lot of challenges. My father was a medical doctor, and you can just imagine the just basic necessities in life, like healthcare and education, were challenges for us. At an early age, I used to follow him. I recall at the age of 8 or 9, as he went through the rural areas in Zambia, helping the community with medical supplies, as well as offering his services as a medical doctor. He taught me at an early age what community service was about, and how as a human being, how we can help each other in any difficult situation. He has always been my mentor. He is retired today, but he always partnered with the mission groups, with the government, with business owners, trying to provide and be resourceful as he helped the communities out in Africa. I was blessed. I was very, very blessed to have gotten the opportunity to come into the United States in 1990 on a scholarship. And as I mentioned, all I had was a suitcase and a big dream to be successful and help others and carry this journey that my father had taught me. My days were difficult. You can imagine, you can just imagine coming into, a first world country with a girl that really hasn't seen anything. It was just basic things that we take as granted today. I was excited about. I worked even in just to pay so the scholarship did pay for my tuition, but it never paid for my residential expenses or my living. So right from the get-go, I was under pressure on how do you make your ends meet, and what are you going to do? And so you quickly start adopting to the American culture and learning at a really fast curve. and really just fighting from the beginning, whether it was washing dishes, or I recall teaching some dancing, some cultural dancing to some of the American students because they found that interesting from my background. And as I mentioned, at that time is when technology started playing a place, and people were actually scared of working in computer labs. And so I had applied for it, not even knowing how to start a computer, and
Wow.
quickly learned how to do that. And it was all DOS commands, and nobody wanted to work in the computer lab in 1990. And so I challenged myself with that as well. And quickly, that's what started paying my bills. So yeah, I come from a very, very diverse, challenging. I come from a background where today I feel like, everything is kind of coming together. I am in a much better place to where, the businesses actually let me give back to the community today. Orange County is my home. And that's where you met me, where I started working on several projects I've always done that. That's always been part of the journey that's never left me, on how do we give back and how do we be involved with the community, and what can I constantly do to strive and continue my father's mentorship from the past and continue giving back, providing, and being an influencer, as well as, with everything that I've learned. I am passionate about helping others, and I achieved the American dream, and I definitely want to make sure that I'm in a position to help others today.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing the backstory for sure. We appreciate that. I did want to find out from you, and I ask all of our guests this as soon as they come on, but given the gravity of the COVID-19 pandemic, how have you and your family been? Like, how have you guys been able to navigate the pandemic?
So I said I'm a mom, so
Yeah,
I think that is the one of the hardest challenges through the pandemic is the education, right? Because we have our children, they've been stuck at home now since it's been like 3 months now, and they're going a little crazy because so this is actually a funny story in the house, because I would tell him in the past, I'd be like, his name is Rahul. I'd be like, Rahul, get off your computer and just go outside, play with your friends, interact, because, the new generation hates to interact. They're constantly on their devices. And today, I'm looking at him as he's stuck at home. He's on his computer, 100%. And just day before yesterday, he goes to me, Mommy, are the schools going to open? Because I'm really tired of this. I have to see my friends, and I just don't think I can academically do well. He's like, I feel like I'm isolated, and I just don't feel I'm going to do that great if the schools aren't going to open. So I think as a mom, when he started speaking to me about his emotions, because we're constantly trying to engage ourselves in business and trying to keep, as a mom, you're a wife as well, you're in business, and then you have him. For the very first time, I listened to him and I was like, oh my God, he is kind of getting depressed and psychologically really being impacted by all of this. And just hearing his excitement to just go back to school, I don't think you would get that in any kid a year ago.
Right. Very true.
So this has been, it is challenging for all of us, and then also trying to work our schedules, because my husband, he works in the financial sector in the emerging markets, and he's gone totally virtual as well. So yeah, we're trying to adopt, and we've created a system. While Rahul was still in school, he would be upstairs in one office, my husband in another, and I'm in the other. And then I'm obviously continuing my journey with community service as well. So unfortunately, I can't just be on a virtual area all day. I take all the safety precautions, go out, help the community, still proceed in business as well, and then come back and take all the safety measures as I come back into my home. So these are challenges we've all adopted, and we're all really worried, right? We're really, really worried about the safety of our family, the safety of our, of our parents, because we really don't know how this virus, how it impacts or what it does. It's one of those that just goes from not having anything to having really critical symptoms.
Very true. So given everything and seeing how Florida has handled its reopening and the recent respike, if you will, in cases, like what are your thoughts on that? Especially with the mask mandate now, like everyone being required to wear one. What are your thoughts on that?
So initially, as I had mentioned, I am in the information technology sector, and our businesses are actually concentrated with clients in the hospitality sector, doctors, and as well as restaurants. So, initially when this had started, as a business owner, we had lost and we had suspended, I should say, all of our clients' monthlies to adopt, because what were they really going to do when the hotel rooms were, the hotels were pretty much basically all closed.
Right.
Doctors' offices weren't seeing patients anymore, and restaurants were under a lot of pressure of losing at least 60% of their revenues. So quickly, as a technology company, we had adopted and suspended all subscriptions and started helping our small businesses around us the best we could, which was to start offering them some masks, some gloves, and some PPE gear to get them started. iTouch Orlando, which is our digital kiosk model, which sits in 140 hotels. We had gone through a lot of hotels that didn't have access to the product line and given them the masks. So, just from a very, very early stage, we as business owners have to come together in any resource we have to help each other out of this crisis. Our doors have to stay open, and we have to be using every safety measure that we can take to bring back the consumer confidence to keep this economy going. And that is something that we had to adopt, like I said, just in the business that we're in, and to also start helping others while we are at it.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. That was actually perfectly timed, because we are going to take a quick commercial break, guys, and then get into the real meat of the conversation. You guys know how we always do. We like to start off with the COVID-19 stuff since it is top of mind, but we want to definitely get into the candidate talk and definitely find out what Anjali Vaya is running on, how she proposes to solve all the ills of Orange County. We'll be right back, though, guys. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Make sure you stay tuned. It'll be a great conversation.
You need time to stand still or get up and go. You need to unplug or to reconnect with those who matter most. You need to kick back, to dive in, to have your moment in the sun. You need a palace to lift your spirits, to taste the finer things. You need room to feed your soul, to remember why you travel. You need Lowe's. The legendary Lowe's Don Cesar Hotel, St. Pete Beach. The room you need.
All right, guys, welcome back to our interview with Anjali Vaya, candidate for Orange County Commission, District 5. So, Anjali, kind of talk about your journey into politics, given that you are so heavily involved in the community, you're big on community service. What made you decide to run for county commission this time?
That's a great question. One of the, it's my past, it's my journey that's gotten me to my present. As I mentioned, my father, who's a mentor to me, has constantly taught me that community service is one of the most important things, that you feel gratitude, and it's a feeling of true satisfaction. To where I am in my life today, as I had mentioned, with the businesses doing well and having come where I am today, everything is about timing. And today, with my son being a teenager, my husband's support, as well as my parents that are a big push in my life, we had spoken about it to say, Anjali, you've been so involved with the community. You've constantly been advocating change, whether it was in the business sector, legislatively. We've made numerous trips to Tallahassee, talking about topics like online fraud, minimum wage, where it should be. We've really, I've constantly been advocating all of this for the entire 10 years, as well as working with various politicians in our local leadership, just with community service, diversity, business, with all of it, to where this just made sense. It's all about timing, to where I can passionately serve and I can passionately be your voice, and I'm ready to be your public servant and to take my experience from where it started to where it is today, to make sure that this community of District 5 is represented by proper leadership. So it is really my mentorship, my past, my presence, and my experience, and most important, the support of my family that has given me this confidence today to run and to hopefully, with your vote, be your next county commissioner.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, your platform currently includes, but is not limited to, it includes economic growth and bringing more jobs to the community, affordable housing, transportation, as well as protecting the rural community and protecting the environment and green spaces. But those just individually are very involved issues to address, some of which may not be resolved within a single term. But what do you propose to do on each of those topics? Kind of go through each of them.
Sure. So, the most important, so if we had started this conversation last year when I had come into this race to where we are today, one of the biggest challenges that we are facing today is jump-starting our local economy and making sure that our doors are open for business, and that we get back to where we were just 3 months ago. That'll be an accomplishment right now. I was looking at the numbers for Orange County. I believe just a month ago, we were at over 18% bankruptcies in small business from last year. And that number is just going to be going up in the next few months. And the reason for it, from what I see as a business owner today, is the consumer confidence is very low. So like I had said, with these coronavirus rates going high and spiking, what are we going to do as business owners, as government leaders, and as community people that live in Orange County? What are we going to do to make sure that we start bringing this number down? So one of the biggest things is, like we said, on ensuring that we are making sure that we are, having those safety measures practiced daily. And the masks are extremely important today to make sure that we're bringing that rate down and that we start bringing that consumer confidence back up. So that we can go back to, having these conventions. As we all know, the convention space is, the tourist corridor is one of our main revenue streams. So it's going to be affecting our taxes, our property taxes, our budgets. It's going to be affecting everything if we don't take control of the situation. So jumpstarting our local economy is our number one priority. And as a county commissioner, looking at non-critical regulations that block businesses, really need to be looked at, and really concentrating on bringing the jobs back, as well as, diversifying the jobs that we have in Orange County, because right now it's mainly concentrated on the tourist, we're mainly concentrated with tourism. Can we maybe look at other sectors like technology, and start branching out to where, where we don't just have all our eggs in one basket, and we're a little bit more diversified in the future. So again, my experiences being a business owner and who I am and with what I bring into play, really, and being the only business owner with employees in this race, neither one of the other candidates, they're both seasoned politicians. This is something that I bring to the table. It's experience, and it's how do we get back into a proper direction of growth. The affordable housing, as we know, this has been a critical issue for years. And as you mentioned with growth, this is not something that we can resolve overnight. There have been task forces that were put in place by the mayor, and we need to make sure that as a county commissioner, we are encouraging more affordable housing in the county as well as District 5, because if you look at all the employees that work in the tourist corridor, one of the biggest complaints in Orange County is that our pay structure is not in balance with the housing. So how are we going to continue growing? These are questions that our leadership definitely, and growth as well, because, we want to keep building and growing to sustain the jobs, as well as, to have different housing opportunities for people across the stream, so we have to look at impact fees, and we have to be a little bit more pro-development centric and not say no to everything. The current commissioner, definitely, that's been a track record of a no vote on every single issue, whether it's bringing a positive change to the community or not. It's constantly a no vote. That is not going to help us with where we're trying to head, and specifically affordable housing and other community issues. We really need somebody that's going to be looking at it in a positive direction. Traffic and transportation is one of the other topics on the platform. As we are aware, the mayor has pulled off the penny tax increase due, I believe that was supposed to be on the ballot. That has been taken off because of the economic challenges that we as residents in Orange County are facing today. However, with that said, that doesn't take away from the traffic and transportation problems that this county is going to encounter in the next few years, as well as ongoing as we grow. We do need a dedicated fund, and we need to look at solutions to make sure that we are on par with the growth that is expected. I believe the last numbers were 1,200, about 1,000 people moving into Orange County. That's a big number. How are we going to, your transportation is a big part of your current lifestyle. So we do need to look at grants. I know there were some speak and conversations from the Orange County board meetings the last few weeks. We are going to have to look at some funding. We're going to have to maybe look at the gas taxes and see if there's anything there that we can leverage, a penny here, a penny too. But we do definitely need a dedicated fund to look at this again, as traffic and transportation is part of our growth. And it is something that we do need to definitely invest in, the links and the light rail and making sure people are connected. Currently in District 5, if you do go out to the east, the connection is horrible. horrible. That is one of the biggest complaints there. So we do need to take care of that. And that is something that I will be looking at very, very closely. And that is, it's definitely one of the main agendas on what I stand for. The other issue is the rural lifestyle and natural resources. So District 5 is a very diverse, it's a very large and a very diversified population, because on to the east, there were commitments and promises made to the people. As your county commissioner, I will, and I say that clearly, I will definitely promise to keep that commitment that was made, to make sure that the rural lifestyles and the promises that were made are kept. Protecting the environment is definitely something that we all need to do. It is for the future of not just for our health, but also for our children and for everybody that comes in front. We have to be making sure that we're taking care of the environment. And so this is something that, even if you look at the digital kiosks that we launched in the market space, one of the things was that it does help with not having paper and brochures in hotels. So innovation, technology, these are all things that I stand for, which demonstrate that the environment is very important. It's very important to all of us. And to make sure that we're balancing our quality of life as we continue to grow. As one of the biggest reasons, one of the things that does differentiate me from other candidates is that I have no special interest. As I had mentioned, I am a first-time candidate. I come from the technology sector of innovation. I have no ties to the developers. And I am not an activist of just one issue. I will represent this county entirely, District 5 being your voice, being your public servant, and always looking at your best interests as we grow and balance our lifestyle together, united.
Gotcha. I did want to delve a little deeper into some of the points you touched on there. So you were mentioning that there is an important need to grow forward in terms of development, while also, the importance of the rural lifestyle and the natural spaces. However, how do you balance that? Because currently there is a lot of development in Orange County, and part of the affordable housing issue too is that a lot of development is real estate that is housing that's more towards the luxury community, slightly higher prices than folks can afford. But how do you kind of balance that line between economic growth in the development space while making sure to protect the green spaces that exist, particularly out in the East Orange County area?
So the East, just like you mentioned, they're actually not against growth. That's actually a myth. They're actually not against growth. What they're against is, having not listening to the guidelines that are in place on zoning. So I really, when speaking to the East, they actually want infrastructure changes, and that is really what they're upset about right now. The fact that just last year there was a park that was put in place where they thought that the land usage might have been better if it had been developed with houses. So I'd like to say that that's a very incorrect statement to make, to say that the East does not want development. They want good development. They want to be heard. They want it to be, and that's when when you are a county commissioner, you have to balance the two. Now, they don't want any one large developer coming in there and changing their lifestyle altogether. That is not proper growth. And that's why it's important to have a balance. Now, the current commissioner has taken a check from a large developer as of recent that has created a lot of problems in the econ recently. So again, when you have people that are looking at special interest or their own gains, and they're not listening to the people, that is not a good thing. You really need to balance it. And that's what I call, again, like I said, nobody is against growth. We want the growth to be in the right direction and to have community involvement and build it together. This isn't about, you can't just always just say no on your voting record. Listen and put a plan together to where it works for all of us.
Thanks for the clarification on that. Appreciate that in terms of the balancing. And then right before we go to our next commercial break, I did want to talk about, a story that broke back in 2019. There was a complaint that was leveled against you in terms of your campaign. So kind of talk about where you are with that. Were you ever served with that complaint? Like how's your campaign handled that?
So I was extremely shocked and extremely disappointed with that complaint. And there's a couple of reasons to why. You are aware that I've been part of this community for the last 9 years, advocating all kinds of cultural and diverse programs. And I have worked with all of the local leaders as well as some state to make sure that diversity, because Orange County is a very diverse population, and we all come from different cultural backgrounds, that we are constantly embracing it. When the party and the chair had made this complaint, they did not realize they did this as a political gain between the current commissioner and the party chair, because they were threatened by the fact that I am the only true person that has not had, I don't look at parties, I serve the people. I've been doing these diversity events for all of my life, actually. So when they put those allegations, to me, it was hurtful. It was hurtful because they didn't care that it was the Independence Day of a country. There were people there celebrating, and you can imagine, just as a United States citizen, what if somebody made a political drama out of it? That is not diversity, and that is not what our leadership should stand for. So I did hire a lawyer, and I did spend $5,000 on it, and I challenged it right away. And that case was dropped within 1 week. That is how low they went. I will not stand for that, and not should anybody in this county, because we are a united front here. We have all come from very different backgrounds, and it is who we are that makes us who we are today. And loving each other, embracing each other's cultures, and being united is what a proper leader does. You do not make allegations on diversity and try to gain political power. So yes, I am hurt by that statement from both the commissioner as well as the political chair. And that is not something that I will ever stand for. And that is not something that anybody in our county should ever stand for. And I am glad that all the charges, as I knew they were dropped. And I would love for this question to be asked to the current commissioner as well as the chair, because I think they need to answer why. Why did they attack a Independence Day of a country? And why did they make this about party alliances on an event that was culturally celebrating? Isn't that what this is supposed to be about? And that's why even in the Times today, we're looking at Black Lives Matter. It's easy to say that a Black Life matters. Your actions speak more than your words do. And that action on August last year, where they made that attack on me, shows where they clearly stand. And that is not who I am. I am the only candidate that will serve across the party lines. And that is my promise.
Thanks for answering that question there. And then very quickly, you kind of touched on it earlier, but talk about the kind of areas of opportunity that you see, or the kind of vulnerable areas in Orange County that you want to prioritize. Say, for instance, you are voted in. What's priority number one when you get into office? What's the first thing you want to work on?
So the very first thing that we need to work on is our safety and our health, because that's going to direct our economy. So until we have a vaccine to the current crisis, the economy is our number one priority. How do our kids go back to school safely? What are the concerns? How do we bring back the consumer confidence? And how does your county commissioner work with all of the different entities that make a successful model, which is working with the nonprofits, working with the business owners, working with the corporate structures? How do we all unite, come together, and create a solution that works to bring back our confidence on just living daily, being healthy, being safe? That itself is going to jumpstart our local economy. As well as, like I had said, we need to look at waiving some of the non-critical regulations and bring back the lost jobs that have gone away in this crisis. So for the number one priority is going to bring back that confidence. And that's going to take time.
Gotcha. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick commercial break and then get some more of the business side of Anjali's life. Talk a little bit about her small business and her involvement in the Indian American Chamber of Commerce. So guys, stick around. We will be right back in a moment.
It takes experience to know the difference in property values. For example, this business is not the same as this business. And this house is definitely not the same as this house. And this? Well, this is definitely not the same as this. And that's why it's important to have someone who understands true property appraisals to help our community grow, while making sure everyone pays their fair share. Because experience matters. Re-elect Rick Singh for Orange County Property Appraiser.
All right, guys, we are back. Thanks for continuing to stick with us. And thank you, Anjali, for taking the time to be on the show. So let's talk a little bit about, the business side of things. Tell our audience a little bit more about your company, Taze. And I know you briefly mentioned earlier, you're in IT. And talk about the different offices. We were just talking right before we went live about what your strategy has been to adapt your business during the pandemic. So just kind of share that with our audience as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we, like I had said, Taze works on custom software solutions for companies, for small business, as well as we are a full digital marketing company as well. So we do SEOs as well as digital marketing. We have been offering a lot of our services for free to the nonprofit world, as well as any events that are scheduled in this town. One of our models is the iTouch Orlando model, which is a digital kiosk that sits at 140.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
My apologies on that, Anjali. Some technical difficulties back here. That's the beauty of being live, guys. Yeah. Bit of inclement weather on my side. Yeah, go ahead. Continue with what you were saying, though. Go ahead.
Yes. So, yeah, we work with the hospitality sector. And as I mentioned, we work with doctors as well as restaurants. We have a full texting platform as well that we offer, which is an interactive. Today's world is very fast, right? We're all using apps. We're using texting. If you speak to the younger generation, they're even more advanced. They're constantly just on their mobile phones. So innovation is something that our company is working on. We're also looking at a new model right now that is going to be a competitive space to Zoom that's being created by some of our project managers in the back. So we're constantly learning to adapt to where, businesses are going to change on how we're operating today. Where does the virtual world take us from here? How do you buy cars online? How do you, we're looking at least in this has definitely awakened our eyes. So projects that we were looking at probably 2 or 3 years ago, we were like, okay, this is probably 5 or 10 years out, is actually become tomorrow. So speed, virtual, the virtual world, that is really where our focus is right now, because that really is the short-term reality of where we are today. And looking, I know a lot of companies have said that it's not as cost effective right now, but like anything, it takes time to adopt and to put the balances in check to where a model is successful. So yeah, we are going into a lot of virtual products right now, as well as looking at, like I said, my businesses, we've actually closed down all of our offices, and we've gone totally virtually at this point. Safety comes first for everyone. If I do have to visit a client, it is with all gear, with my mask and my gloves and sanitizers in place. And like I said in before, that we all have to work together, bringing in our strengths and trying to create an atmosphere that's going to balance and open and get ourselves back into a jump-starting our businesses, in which again is what this is about making sure our economy keeps going. So that's just a little bit about where the business stands today.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And give us your thoughts on the Orange County CARES grant that was made available, obviously a branch off of the federal CARES grant. What were your thoughts on that being available to small business owners in Orange County?
So we're going to need all the help we can. And I'm glad that, Orange County stepped in for the small businesses. Not only did they offer the help financially, but they also did go ahead and at least jumpstart us on giving us the gear needed for safety. So, from Orange County standpoint, I am happy that they took those measures to give us that start. However, with that said, it's going to take a lot more than that to keep our doors open. Mm-hmm. So, like I had mentioned, most of the businesses that I work with have seen like some 40 and some 80% decline in revenue. So that financial amount that we've all been given is not enough to sustain small business. So what are we going to do about it? And what is Orange County local leadership? They're going to constantly have to come up with ideas, because as I had mentioned, we're going to need a lot more than just that initial amount that was given, even though that's very appreciated.
Gotcha. And then what is your advice for a company or for folks who have had to now, be forced to create a small business because they were furloughed or laid off as a result of the pandemic?
This is my advice, and I'm going to say this. I have gone through constant challenges in my life. I mentioned to you that I came into this country with just a suitcase and not even knowing which direction I was going. Life is about adapting to whatever's thrown at us, and I call this a crisis. I think this is much worse than the financial crisis that we were in the 2008 era. We're in a crisis mode. We all have to do what's best, and what we have to dig deep into ourselves. Definitely not give up, because there's no such thing as giving up, right? This is a short-term problem that we will all overcome. Okay, we have to have faith that we will somehow be united as a front together, and we will come up. So my advice is dig deep, don't lose hope, come up with ideas, with innovative ideas. I know a lot of people started making masks. I know some people started doing sanitizers. There were a lot of moms that were just helping. They didn't even care they weren't even starting a business. They were just helping the community with sewing. these are strengths that each one of us has. Every single person has a strength, and work on that strength. And it's hard work. Hard work always pays off. There is nothing like an easy paycheck. It doesn't exist. So we all have to work. We have to dig deep, as I am today. And I've taken a massive loss in my business in the last 3 months. But that just gives me more strength to be more innovative and come up with new ideas and utilizing my strengths. Like I said, we're working on competitive technology. So working on projects and adapting is what's going to keep us going and keep us united and keep our economies flowing. And jobs, we have to keep having those jobs.
And that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned the jobs right there at the very end. Talk a little bit about what you've seen the Indian American Chamber of Commerce doing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, share with our audience your involvement with the chamber, but how you've seen the chamber have to adapt as well during the pandemic.
So, I've been with the Indian American Chamber of Commerce as well as several other chambers of commerce because of the community advocacy and policies that I work in today. So I've been in contact with numerous Chamber of Commerces, not just the Indian, and I'm feeling their pain because as business owners, we actually got a check to get ourselves out of this for the short run. The business chambers, where they are sustaining themselves really, and these are a very important module. Let's first start there because you have businesses coming from various sectors collaborating their minds. And it's when we have this collaboration that we actually uniquely come up with ideas to succeed in business, right? So right now, with the Chamber of Commerce's, where we're not able to really have that space except for virtual time, like the Indian American Chamber of Commerce has adapted quickly and gone into something we call iTalks every week. Mm-hmm. But it's still a challenge on how we're going to sustain because the sponsorships are, again, like I said, most of the businesses are in uncertainty on how much can they budget to the Chamber of Commerce's, to communities, because they themselves are in a challenging time right now. So how do these commerces actually sustain themselves to this pandemic is really what we're working on as our module, on keeping the interaction going and keeping our costs low and making sure that we're still collaborating with each other bi-weekly right now, where we've had leadership come in, business mentors come in, talk about the challenges they're facing and see how we can unite and maybe, feed off of each other on maybe there's something that I've missed that the other person's doing and quickly adopt and move forward. And some of us have actually even started working together in this whole thing on, hey, I have X, Y, and Z, can you help me with product launch, things like that. So where the Chamber of Commerce is extremely important, not only in these challenging times to make sure that they're sustaining, but also that we as leadership, if you are a county commissioner or a mayor or a state rep, to make sure that you are involved with them, because that's where the small businesses, that's where they're talking. That's where you can come up with the non-critical regulations that might be challenging and stopping them right now from doing something. So I think it's very, very important that, the county commission, as well as state, as well as, federal, that we are still in conversations with the Chamber of Commerce's and making sure that they're going to be able to sustain this with everything that they're doing in their power to sustain this. Because there are no events, there are no galas, there is nothing that's going to be giving them that revenue stream to sustain. And these are all nonprofits, 501(c)(3)s. So, we have to make sure that we find a way to make sure that we all sustain. And right now, as a business owner, I'm doing my part to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce's that I am involved with, that I am interacting with them, and that I am still present, and that my voice is still coming in there, and I can do whatever I can do with the limited resources I have today to make sure, realizing how important of a model it is, that we need to make sure it sustains through this epidemic as well.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to take one more very brief commercial break. When I tell y'all brief, like 15 seconds, okay? Take your sip of water and come right back. But as usual, guys, in our Politics and Power interviews, as we're winding down, we like to get down to the person personally. So we're going to head into that with Anjali in a moment. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
At Taco John's, you can expect one thing: so good. As in quality ingredients used in tacos and burritos made just for you. Every single bite.
So good.
Expect nothing less at Taco John's.
Told you guys, 15 seconds. We are back with Anjali Vaya, who's the candidate for Orange County Commissioner District 5. So getting to the more personal side of things, just on the day-to-day, particularly given your journey, what is your fuel on a day-to-day basis? What is your motivations, your go-tos, particularly on the days that are more difficult, especially during a pandemic like this, where things are still very uncertain? What are your go-to motivations?
So I'm going to say something that my husband said to me recently, which I've never really thought of myself as this person. So he woke up one morning and he said to me, "Anjali, why is it that you just wake up?" Because I start my day at 4:30 in the morning because I do have offshore teams right now in India. So he's like, "What keeps you going?" He's like, "You wake up at 4:30 and you're up and you're bright and you're cheery and you're smiling and you get yourself going every day." And I said to him, "What gets me going is you and Rahul. It's simple." It's not more complicated than that. If I can be a good mom, if I can be a good wife, and if I will definitely be good in the community as well. And it's the positive energy that each one of us has to keep it going. That's, regardless of what our outside circumstances are, we all have issues in our lives, every single one of us. I have my challenging days as well as the other person. And to realize that we're all in this together and to make sure that we will, we'll find a solution out of all of this. And, given again my background and having come from pretty much nothing, having very limited resources my entire life, you adapt a little quicker than others do because you've seen a lifestyle that most haven't. And my son says this to me all the time when I'll be giving him the lectures of, "Oh, you're so privileged. You have a computer and you have all these mobile technologies and everything that we give to you." And he'll look at me and he'll say, "Mommy, it's not my fault that you were born and brought up in another country."
Wow.
And so, again, it's, and he's right. It's not his fault. It's just something that's instilled in you that you're constantly in a crisis mode and you know how to, you've been through it so many times in your journey that today, this is just another one of those, another one of those blocks that have come in our path, and you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. We just have to stay positive and find a direction that's going to work for us. So yeah, it's just my past that gives me that confidence that, I can overcome anything that is put in front of me.
I hope y'all heard that. Like, say that one more time for the folks in the back. You can overcome anything. That's very important. That's put in front of you. That's very important. So what is the most meaningful part of running your tech firm? Of all the complexities, you have multiple offices. Like, what's the most meaningful thing for you in running your business?
To me, innovation, that excites me. It's innovation that excites me. When I came back to the country in 2000, what was it, in 99 or 2000, I can't even remember. I had won the green card lottery. That's how I came back. So after I graduated with my degrees from the United States, I'd actually served with my father for 2 years in HIV base camps with the World Health Organization. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the mission groups that actually applied for my green card. And there was a lottery system back in the day. And I was one of millions that won that lottery. And I didn't even do all the paperwork. It was one of the church groups that worked with my father that did it for me, saying that, "Anjali, you really need to go back and do something. You need to do something for everybody." And so when I came back to the States, I'd kind of said some very brief things that I'd gotten into computers while learning while I was in college with the DOS programs. It was something that was just something that I was always passionate about. It was like always something that got my curiosity. Computers, innovation, that you could actually change direction in several ways with some simple commands and clicks. So in 2000, when I came back, I followed that path and that direction, and had gone back and put myself through schooling, as well as it was just an electronics institute. It was programming courses, and computers are just like a hobby. It's either it's not really it's like a language. You either learn it or you don't. And it's either you're passionate about it or you're not. I always find people that hate all the computers, or you either just love it. It's just one of those love-hate relationships. And so for me, when I did get that, I had started the first e-commerce website in the country for furniture sales.
Wow.
And I was told in 2002 that I'd lost my mind because I was working for a furniture retail store, Benchmark Home Furnishings. At the time, it was a family-owned business. They did revenues of about 80 million when I had started with them. And I told them, I said, why can't we deliver furniture across the country? And the owner was very, very futuristic. And he said to me, can that be done? And I said, yes, it can. We can do it. And so we started with just a Sunday afternoon conversation, and we ended up building an entire empire out of it. It was called behome.com. And even today, my personal emails, you'll see me using BeHome, because that to me is something close to home, because that was one of my first product launches in my career. It was a full-blown e-commerce website for furniture sales, and everybody thought you could never, today it's so natural, everybody does it, but back in 2000 it was a very new thing. So so that's what this is about. It's about being passionate about creating change and creating efficiency and being innovative and thinking outside the box. That's what excites me. That's why I'm in the technology sector, because that's what it's about. Who would have thought Facebook and social media and all of these things would have come in and would have changed our lives in such a drastic manner, right? Think about it. In the 90s, none of this stuff existed. You had the .coms, which is where the e-commerce came in, and then you went into the whole social media platforms. So what's coming next? I say it's virtual.
Hey. Lastly, as we wrap up, we talked about a lot during this interview, but is there any parting words you want the audience to know? Is there anything that you want to make sure that the audience knows that we didn't talk about?
No, I am not a politician. I'm not a careered politician. I'm here to serve you, to be your public voice. And I've genuinely been working since August, knowing the community of District 5, because it is a different path from being involved in community projects to actually going on the ground and getting to know my neighbors, my people. Everyone in District 5 is my neighbor at this point. Everybody matters. Your voice matters. And you need a leader that can balance and be your voice and not get too carried away with special interests, specifically with the given challenges that we are heading in today. Please just, take a look at Get to Know Me, Anjali Vaya. As I said, I'm very simple. I'm just a wife, a mom, a business owner. And I really, at this particular time in my life, I want to serve you, be your next Orange County District 5 Commissioner, and bring us together, unite us, and create stronger and safer communities. So definitely look out for my name. And August 18th is the election date. And I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
All right, Anjali Vaya, everyone, candidate for Orange County Commissioner, District 5. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So guys, this is our Politics and Power series for the week. We will be back next week, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. And as for me, you will see me again a little later this afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Time with the Evening News Rundown, where I will, of course, give you the latest headlines, the top stories going on in the US and across the world. So be sure to tune in there. And of course, tomorrow's Friday, guys, so you know it's going to be jam-packed. We have our 3 shows on Friday. We have our Entertainment Buzz Live with the lovely Jenny Rosario de Casiano. She'll be interviewing independent filmmaker Michael Baez. So be sure to tune in for that. And then, of course, I'll be back with the Evening News Rundown at 5 p.m., followed by our lovely Casey Hudson, who will be back with the FNN Sports Take at 8 p.m. on Friday evening. So if you haven't already, be sure to like us, follow us, all of that. You can find us at Florida National News on Facebook, at FNN News TV, or at FNN News Live on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. You'll find us at Florida National News on YouTube as well. And we have the same name on Instagram as well. So be sure to follow us on Instagram. In the meantime, thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode of FNN Politics and Power. We'll be back later this afternoon. You'll see me later this afternoon. Take care. And thanks again to Anjali Vaya for coming on the show.